Let's talk about how the direct examination of a witness called by Donald Trump's own lawyers backfired in Donald Trump, the Trump Organization, and the other defendants' faces. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Look, the New York Attorney General civil fraud case is a document-based case. The documents matter, and getting into the weeds of the documents is critical. So Jeff McConney, Donald Trump's former controller at the Trump Organization, was called as a witness by the Trump Organization in their case. The prosecution rested. They called McConney up first, but the Trump Organization, the defendant in the civil fraud case, said that they would call McConney up as well because they wanted to paint this flattering picture of the Trump Organization, which does not match reality, and also that Donald Trump had no involvement regarding the statement of financial conditions, the final approvals, and all of that, which, by the way, should just make no sense at all. You would expect a big, powerful, tough business person would know about their finances and would be the one making the approvals. All right, so be it. Let's take a look at the documents that Jeff McConney, the former controller who spent 35 years working for the Trump Organization, was provided. Pull up this first one. As we take a look at this document right here, it is a letter from Meiselas, and it's written to, who is it written to? To Donald Trump right here. And Meiselas was the outside accounting firm who the Trump Organization wants to blame everything, that it was the fault of Meiselas, it was the fault of Donald Bender, the accountant for Meiselas, that they were the ones who screwed this all up, and that Meiselas ultimately made the final call. Well, if you look through the Meiselas retention agreement, it states that the Trump Organization has the final approval, that all of the numbers come from the Trump Organization, that Meiselas doesn't input its own data. They're taking the data from the Trump Organization. But take a look at the very top of this document right here. Do you see that right here? It says DJT to get final review. Donald J. Trump to get final review. Now, at the deposition of Jeff McConney stated that he did not know whose blue handwriting that was. Really? You didn't know that was your handwriting, McConney? But the prosecutors in their deposition of McConney let him bury himself with that position. Okay, you're going to say that you don't know who it was. They didn't go and show him all of the other remarks that he made and notations that he made. They withheld some of them knowing that he made them, and they just waited for it at the time of trial so they can say, actually, this was your handwriting, correct? Here's the deposition transcript right here where they say, do you recognize that handwriting? Who was getting the final review? And Trump said he didn't recognize the handwriting. McConney denied that it was his writing. No one knew. But at the trial, that all changed. And McConney, on cross-examination, right, the way it works is Donald Trump's lawyer called McConney first, direct exam. Then the prosecutors got to go cross-exam, and then they showed McConney another document right here. You see that same blue handwriting? You see that it's the same handwriting right there. It says, this computation also includes forecasted deals that have not been signed yet. And as you get into the weeds here, it then asks also of Donald Trump, do you want to do deals like this? And it talks about ways of valuing properties that ultimately Donald Trump rejected. And so what we're seeing here, right here, do you want to do deals like this? Trump was asked in a handwritten note, warning of $151 million in forecasted deals. And are these the type of deals that you want? So clearly, Donald Trump was familiar with these things, and he was getting final approval. Now, as McConney was being asked more questions, he started crying, and he broke down on the stand as the weight of all of these various cases clearly kind of overwhelmed him. And for those who watched the other video I did on McConney, I want to be clear. It's not my intent to make fun of him that he was crying hysterically on the stand. Uncontrollably, perhaps could be a better word to use. I'm just simply reflecting that he was on the stand, broken down and crying for the situation that he was in. But ultimately, only he was to blame. He worked at this organization for 35 years, and Donald Trump put him in the line of fire. And he was the person, basically, in the way Donald Trump ran this, you had Alan Weiselberg, the CFO, doesn't know anything about generally accepting accounting principles. He doesn't know GAAP. He's not a CPA. He's not a trained accountant. He's as Weiselberg would say, that he was basically a bookkeeper who got the role of being the CFO of the organization. And then Trump had McConney as this other layer of getting the data. And then he had the outside professionals, and Trump's whole scheme here, and fortunately for the outside professionals, they appropriately papered their disclaimer language to say that y'all Trump organization people are the ones responsible for your own books and the data that we have. But Trump's whole plan here is not to say, and just think about this for trial, it's not to say, I did my due diligence and these numbers are accurate. It's really not what Trump is saying at all. I mean, Trump is saying it's the fault of Mazars. It is the fault of my other outside professionals. It is the fault of the banks. I had a disclaimer clause. Everybody should have known that I was disclaiming all of the fraud based on what he calls a useless clause. Trump's not saying I'm in the weeds on the due diligence. Trump's other things are, I didn't add brand premium, which he did. And then his other kind of scammy claim is that the judge is the one who's appraising the values of the property. And the judge went rogue and is appraising Mar-a-Lago at $27 million when people who work at the Trump organization, like McConney, they've testified in this case. And they've said, no, it's the Trump organization that valued Mar-a-Lago at $27 million. It was devalued because the Trump organization wanted to pay less in property taxes. And as I've said before, and let me say it again, I want to have a real conversation with facts and evidence. So if you were to tell me, hey, Ben, Mar-a-Lago, if it was not a commercial club, if it was a residential property, what would be the valuation? And I were to look at comps in the area, and then you were to say, we believe the valuation of Mar-a-Lago is $250 to $300 million. But I really wouldn't blink an eye. I'd say that's high, but it's a nice property. It's on the water. The comps around that are in that range. It sounds a little high, $300 million. It's certainly not $1.5 billion, but you want to say it's $300 million. But you see, the issue is it's not a residential property. See, Trump encumbered the property with a deed that said the property will forever be used, or he intends to forever use the property as a commercial club. And therefore, he didn't pay property taxes on $300 million or the $1.5 billion that he says right now. In Florida, that would be about a 1% property tax. Do that over 10 years, and you come up with a very large number right there. You could do the math. He paid property taxes on the $27 million where he devalued it, and that's why he would provide fraudulent numbers to the different entities. He would run that same scheme over and over again with the various properties that he did in different ways. He would say that this property is 30,000 square feet. It's 10,000 square feet. He would say this property has full occupancy at the highest possible rent. It was rent controlled and didn't have full occupancy. So you go over these permutations over and over again, and you look at the facts and the data, And to me, that's the ultimate issue here. And that's why Judge Engoron ruled the way he did. And that's why when all of these people who want to, I call it MAGA-splaining, or they want to be MAGA accountants or MAGA lawyers, and they want to explain, you don't understand, Ben, this is how you do it. No. I mean, I've handled cases like this. I understand how you do it, and I get what the judge is doing here. The judge is looking at the undisputed evidence, and where all you then have to kind of argue is to say, well, we should attack the judge's law clerk and attack the judge or attack the AG and call the AG racist names and create this sideshow. You're kind of telling on yourself right there. I'll leave you with this video right here. This is Alan Weiselberg, folks. This is the CFO of the Trump Organization, now a convicted felon. Remember, he pled guilty, served time in Rikers. This is the CFO. Would this be an individual you would want to be the CFO of your small business, medium-sized business, large business, your nonprofit? Is this someone you'd even want to have? If he offered pro bono to help you on your taxes or would you want his help? I mean, look at this. Play the clip.
If I said the phrase GAAP, GAAP, are you familiar with that acronym?
I've heard of that, yes.
Okay. Tell me everything you know about GAAP. What is GAAP?
Generally accepted accounting principles. I don't know what's in GAAP. I never took the CPA exam.
Okay.
And never studied for it. So I don't know all the various components of what GAAP is.
Are there any components you know about what GAAP is?
Not really.
Okay.
No.
So after watching that, y'all want to MAGA-splain to me that this is how large corporations run? It isn't enough of that crap. And this is how Trump runs things in general. There's a fundamental incompetence here as well. In just people who aren't qualified, setting the fascism, the idiocracy, just not qualified people. I'm Ben Meiselas from the Midas. That's how he wants it too. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million subscribers thanks to your support. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Have a good one.
Hey Midas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.